Hello, nerds. Hello, welcome back to another messy room in my house. I'm Barbara, and welcome to a quarterly reading wrap-up. Yes, so this is all the books that I've read at the beginning of the year. A lot has happened since January. I have read 7 books since the beginning of the year. I also went to Germany. It was beautiful. It was stunning. I can't wait to move. I loved it there. I added color to a current tattoo. I got some dots added to my fingers, which I love. Another nail set has been completed. Very happy. I finally discovered a method of doing my nails that is cohesive with my lazy aesthetic, also looks nice and is fun to do for me and doesn't take hours. Because if you do your own nails at home, especially your own gel nails, then you know it takes 13,000 hours. So this only took me 4 hours, which I will take. What else happened in the last quarter? I read 7 books, which is so exciting. I am up to 11 or 12 books since I started reading again. And normally my hyper-fixation fizzles out within 90 days. And I'm still cooking. I'm still like, as soon as I finish a book, I start another one. We're thriving. My method of getting back into reading has been working. So if you haven't watched that video, you should give it a view, especially if you're neurospicy or adjacent. I think it might be helpful. Anyway, let's go over the books that I read. There's a whole heap and caboodle of them. I read these books in the last quarter, and we're just gonna go through them, okay? So I will admit, this first book I did start at the end of December. I also DNF'd this book, but I was over halfway through it. I probably had a quarter of it left, so I'm counting it, okay? And it is The Little Old Lady Who Broke All the Rules by Katrina Engelman Sandberg. This book was translated from Swedish, I believe. Even though in Norway this was labeled the funniest book of the year, I think a lot of the comedy was lost on me due to not reading it in its original language and also maybe not understanding the nuance of their humor. There were moments where I was like, haha, that's funny, that's cute, or whatever, but I wasn't laughing out loud. I wasn't living, laughing, loving, as the kids say. Let me tell you what this book is about. So this book is about Martha, who is living in a senior living facility with her friends, and this is a government provided senior living facility. Like, imagine having your golden years being paid for by the government. What would that be like? Anyway, they were complaining about it, which rightfully so, because we always have room to complain. They were cutting cost to take money off the top. And that was making these people real angry. They were like, bitch, giving us instant coffee over real coffee. We're no longer getting tasty pastries. You're not allowing us to have a Christmas tree. They're not allowed to go on outings. The food is bad. Like, they just really treating these people like prisoners. Martha watched a documentary or something and realized that the prisoners in Sweden are treated better than they are. They have better facilities. They have better food. Like, it looks luxurious in comparison. And they're bored. They're all in their late 70s, early 80s. And this group decides that they are going to do crime and get arrested so they can go to jail as a form of protest. And they do that. And there's a lot of hijinks that ensues. This book had a lot going on, but there was like no purpose. And at first it was interesting seeing how these old people could pull off these crimes. It got to the point where I was like, there's so much happening, but nothing's happening. There's so much going on, but I'm bored. How is it reading about a bunch of old people stealing precious art boring to me? But it is. And that's disappointing because I really wanted to like this book and I just didn't. I give it a meh. I'm glad somebody found it funny. It just wasn't for me. I do like this cover though. I think this is so funny, which is what drew me to it. Also, I thought it was The Little Old Lady Who Was Up to No Good, which is about an old lady who is a serial killer, which I think is more interesting. And if I ever find that book, I'm gonna buy it. But that's what I thought this book was. And that's why you should always Google before you buy, okay? Anyway, the next book on my list is this book, and I can't tell you anything about it because unfortunately, this book is under the St. Martin's Press umbrella, under Wednesday Books. Bought this before I knew about the boycott, which if you don't know about the boycott, we are not supporting St. Martin's Press due to the fact that they are being shitty. And if you want more information about that, I will leave links to other YouTubers who talk more in depth about it, as well as other posts that you can go and look into that. But to stand in solidarity to talking about this book, other than it was so good, and I wish a book like this was written when I was a kid. Also written by a trans indigenous author, so that is why I picked it up. It's unfortunate that we can't boost this author. But just so you know, with the boycott, they're not saying that you can't buy books under St. Martin's Press or under their umbrella publications, just that not to talk about it, not to help market them, because you gotta hit them where it hurts, and that is the pocketbook. It was so fun, and I wish I could tell you about it, but alas. The next book that I read was How to Sell a Haunted House by Grady Hendrix. This book was so fun. I also love how they break up the different parts with this black page because it's really easy to see when the next part is in the book. And I don't use a bookmark, so it was really helpful for me. This book is about a girl named Louise who finds out that her parents died in a car accident. She has to go home and deal with their estate, and her brother, who is kind of a loser, a deadbeat, has never really amounted to anything in his life. She is really estranged from him, hasn't talked to him since she left. I think if you have a if you have a rough relationship with your sibling, this book is gonna hit some nerves, okay? Because it definitely did for me. Also, the house is haunted. Their parents' house is haunted, and it is wild. I've never read Grady Hendrix, but after reading this and seeing other people talk about his work, it's very clear that he's like, it's a silly haunt. It's a silly hee hee ha ha. Oh, that's disgusting. Ha hee 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 silly haunt. The kind of haunt that you would be embarrassed to tell somebody that you're dealing with because it's not scary when you explain it to somebody else. And I don't want to spoil it, but it's just like, what? You're dealing with what? Like, that's so weird and silly. Like, why are you okay? But nonetheless terrifying if it was actually happening. I thought the middle kind of lost the point for a little bit. I feel like Grady was just like, oh shit, we need a middle part. There are things that I wish he had done differently, but otherwise I did enjoy it. I would recommend it. I think it's fun. It definitely is a quick read. Not so scary that you can't sleep at night, but just enough scary for me to be like, oh, I don't want to know what happens next, but yet. That was very much the vibe in this book. I had a lot of fun. I do have one gripe though. The house on this cover, you see this house? See how it's like a nice little cutie little house, farmhouse look situation? The house is a ranch from the 50s. They describe it in great detail. And you know, this is no knock on the artist. No shade to you. I think you did a beautiful job. However, this does not reflect the house that was in the book. Keep in mind, I have a whole ass degree in interior design and architecture, and especially old homes. I mean, I got a tattoo of an old house. Like, I love old houses. So that's what kind of drew me to this, was the house, and not the house in the book. To be fair, I know that a 50s ranch style home is not the most aesthetically pleasing thing to look at. Like, it's fine. It definitely has its place, but it's no like cutesy little farmhouse. So I get it. I get that this sells more copies. However, that did frustrate me, and I did want to notate that, but I would recommend. I think it was fun. I think if you want to dip your toes into horror or thrillers, this would be it. There is some scenes in here that are a little on the spicier end, not like sexy spicy, but like scary spicy. And I am desensitized. I'm a millennial in my 30s. Okay. I'm a little desensitized, so if you are squeamish to those kind of things, that's something to keep in mind. I did really enjoy this, and it was fun, and I really enjoyed the characters, all the side plots. I would love for there to be a prequel from their mother's perspective, which makes sense if you've read the book. I would love to hear about that wild tale, because I need to know. I feel like it's a good reminder to be honest with the people that you love in your life and tell them the things that are happening, and to not keep it bottled up, because sometimes you gotta be vulnerable, okay? It's okay. It's okay. Anyway, I did enjoy this. Moving on to Ace of Spades by Frida Abike Edememe. I have practiced saying this name 100,000 times. I'm so sorry. But I read this while I was in Germany. I brought extra books with me thinking I would fly through that. No. Well, I thought I would be reading on the plane, and on the way there, it was a mess, and I couldn't read on the plane. That's not because I didn't want to, not because I wasn't awake and fully conscious. I just couldn't because of reasons, and it was frustrating to me. I could tell you that story, but it's stupid. This book is about two students, Devon and Chiamaka, who go to a private fancy school. Devon is a scholarship kid, and Chiamaka is, you know, her parents just have money. And you flip back and forth from their perspective. On the first day of school of their senior year, they're starting getting harassed by an anonymous texter named Aces, who tries to ruin their senior year, and shit hits the fan. And I binged this on the plane. My nose was in this book. I was like, what is gonna happen? I will say this. This is Frida's debut album, and while I think it was well written, there were some parts about it that I think lacked nuance that she can't have because she is from the UK. From a Black American experience, some of the things were unrealistic or not reasonable, or were elevated to the point of extreme. She just really ran Devon through every single thing that could happen to a kid in his situation, person, and I really didn't like that because she didn't treat Chiamaka with the same. I feel like Devon's character was definitely more thought out and considered, where Chiamaka was kind of an afterthought, and I found that frustrating. Chiamaka is also mixed race, and I think there was a lot of things that she could have touched on as a mixed race person, but again, it's things that you can't know unless you are also mixed race, and I don't know if she is. I'm assuming that she is not. I found that kind of frustrating, but I do think it was a good book. I think woke white people will really enjoy it and be shocked and appalled by what goes on in this book. If you are black and grew up in a mostly white area, you'll be like, yeah, that was literally my high school experience in a lot of ways. I was one of very few black students, and a lot of this was like, yeah, okay. And I was frustrated that them being the only 2 black students at the school, racism never came to their mind as the thing. And maybe that was because she wanted to leave that as like a plot twist. I was called the N-word at age 6, so I knew racism was a part of my experience. It was very clear to me that I was different, and very clear to me that white people did not like me. And I think she should have leaned into that as them being like, well, it might be, I mean, no, these are my friends, you know, like trying to deal with my friends can't be racist towards me, they love and care about me. I think there was things they could have leaned into a bit better. I do think it was good. I already picked up one of their newest books. I forget what it's called, Where Sleeping Girls Lie, and I'm excited to read that. So I did enjoy her writing. I did enjoy the plot. I enjoyed what she was trying to create. I think it just needed a little more time to cook. I think it needed a little more peer review. I think it needed a little bit more research about what it's like to be black in the US. And now this book isn't meant to be in the US. It's kind of like supposed to be a Western area. There were some things that fell kind of flat for me, and it wrapped up too neatly, I think. And Chiamaka just needed more grit. And she's mean to Devon when he's already having a really hard time, okay? A really, really hard time. I really didn't care about Chiamaka's story by the end of it. I was just like, and I want to be a girl's girl. I want to root for the girls, okay? But I could not root for her. She wasn't a girl's girl, so I'm not a girl's girl. That's kind of how I felt about that. But overall, I would recommend. Moving on to Tender is the Flesh by Agustina Bazzarica. This is an Argentina-based art. This author is from Argentina. This was translated into English, and this is about a man named Marcos, and he works at a meat processing plant. The meat that they process is human meat. They're just following him, like dealing with the loss of his baby, his wife who's left him, and this horrible job that he has to work in order to pay for the care of his father, so he doesn't end up being meat as well. And you just follow him in his day-to-day life, listening to his inner monologue. This book, I thought it would make me want to be vegetarian again. It did not. I watched Ocha on Netflix like a billion years ago. Cried like a baby, became vegan instantly, just stopped eating meat. I couldn't do it. This book did not do it for me, and maybe it's because I don't care about humans. That's not what I mean. I do care about humans. I just, maybe it's more like I'm not surprised by the audacity of humans. To me, it wasn't so out of left field. People were really grossed out by it. I wasn't grossed out by it, but again, I'm totally desensitized. I think maybe it's because I'm already sympathetic to processing meat when it comes to animals. So I already know how it works. Them flipping humans instead of cows was kind of like, well, that's what they would do. It makes sense. So maybe that's why I was a little less desensitized to it. Maybe it's the autism. I don't know. I think it's a good commentary on capitalism. Like, it makes a lot of sense. I wouldn't be shocked at all that the big powers of the world would condone this and continue this. I'm not surprised that other people wouldn't fall in line as well. I wouldn't. And in fact, Marcus is a vegetarian throughout the entire book, and people are like, that's so weird. Why would you not eat meat? And like, because it's literally human. It's literally people. It's people. Soylent is people. Like, I would recommend it. I don't think it's for the faint of heart. It is heavy. It is intense. But it's something I probably will reread. It's small and you think it's going to be a quick read, but I had to take time away from it. I was more disgusted with how other humans responded to this new source of meats and how people took enjoyment out of it. Like, they talk about using leather. They talk about hunting. And some of those I did not. It was hard for me. Also, I was really disappointed in Marcos by the end of this. The ending was frustrating. You feel like you're riding with Marcos. You're like, yes, I totally understand Marcos. I'm on the same page, Marcos. I would be feeling the same way too, Marcos. I understand. I keep calling Marcos. Marcos, I understand why you feel the way you feel about this, Marcos. I understand why you got to keep this job, Marcos. Like, I understand. Rock in a hard place. And then he goes left field. And you're like, okay, I can't come with you, Marcos. Our journey together ends here. I've never felt so disappointed in a character and the direction that they went. And, you know, it didn't go any direction I thought it was going to go. And up until the last page, I was like, no. Surely, Marcos. we're friends. I thought we were on the same page. No, but I did enjoy it. Also, the cover's sick. All right. Next on my list is A Dowry of Blood by S.T. Gibson. This book is written from the perspective of one of Dracula's wives, explaining to him why she had to kill him, and also breaking down their life together from the moment that she was turned to, I guess, up until he had bookends. I really enjoyed the way that S.T. Gibson wrote their romance and the seductive, sexy, spicy parts. It wasn't necessarily fade to black. It was more like silhouette, if that makes sense. So I did appreciate that, which I think is what I more prefer. And you know, everyone loves this book. I think it is written beautifully. I do love the way this was formatted. I was in love with Dracula just as much as Costanza was. I was there with her throughout the whole book and rooting for her. I was like, I can't wait for you to murder this man. I do have one ick with this book that it seems that nobody else is mentioning. So this is like a polyamorous vampire relationship, right? Dracula keeps bringing in brides, okay? And they call each other sister, brother, and then literally will start making out and kissing. I hated that. It was very incestuous to me. The first time it happened, I was like, okay, you know, it's weird, but you know, I guess it makes sense. Not to me, but I mean, I guess. And then it kept happening. And I thought there was a better way for Sarah ST to write that. And I felt like it was unnecessary for the plot. It was just weird. It was a weird choice. If I was to recommend this book, I would tell them about the sibling thing, because it was just very weird. And it took me out of it. It took me out of the spice at all. And they're not technically siblings. They're not blood related, I guess. But why'd you have to call them sister and then go down on each other? I will probably read more from S.T. Gibson. I just didn't like that specific thing. I do appreciate how they set up the relationship between them and Dracula, the bringing in new brides. I thought all of that was done so well. It was so well written. It played the movie in my head. I was in this dank, wet, nasty castle. I was eating blood with them, okay? It was written really well. Just, did you have to call them sister, brother, and then... The last book I read this quarter is The Housemaid by Frida McFadden. I had a good time. I thought this book was another book, which I think is called The Maid, where she stumbles upon a dead body and it's like a whole thing. So the whole time I was like, when's she gonna find this body? Again, bamboozled by my own brain. This book is about Millie, who takes a job as an in-home nurse. And she is working for, what's her name? Nina, who is banana pants, okay? The first day she works, whole house, it's an absolute pigsty. It's disgusting. Okay, she cleans it. She spends all day scrubbing this house pristine clean, and then Nina like trashes it the next morning. Like she come downstairs to Nina just wrecking the house, and she's like, what the fuck? And that keeps happening, and she's like, what the fuck, Nina? But she needs this job, okay? She just got out of jail. It pays too well. Like she needs to keep this job just long enough to save up so she can move out and get her own place and kind of have better footing under her, right? Anyway, shit happens and things ensue. It's really good. I liked it a lot. I guessed the plot twist immediately, like as soon as the hint was dropped. I was like, I know exactly I know how this is gonna go. But I was here for the ride. It played a movie in my head. I didn't know whose team I was on half the time. It was really good. I enjoyed it. I think it is worth the hype. Now, I think if you're going into this thinking like, oh my god, this thriller's gonna blow my mind, I don't think that's the case. Again, I guess the plot twist halfway through the book, okay? But I did really enjoy it. I do recommend this book. I think you should read it. It was fun. I'm probably not gonna read the second book, but I did like this one, so. All right. Well, that wraps up everything I read this quarter. I had a good time. It was fun. Well, I've already started my next reading vlog, so I think I'm going to do an April reading vlog instead of a quarterly reading vlog because it's too much. It's too much to go through. It's too much. It's overwhelming. So I'm already working on that. I'm already in the second book. What else? I wrote down some stuff. Let me find it. Let me get my script. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, want to see more from me, please give me a like, comment, leave me an old lady emoji so I know that you made it to the end of this video in the comments, or, let me know how your day is going. Let me know if you've read any of these books. If you have any suggestions of books I should read, I really enjoy hearing from you. Also, feel free to follow me on Instagram, which is at velvet.curls. I'm always there, hanging out, talking about what I'm reading. I mostly upload to my stories. And hopefully, the next time I see you, I will have a library card and we'll do a library reading vlog. How fun would that be? Hold me to it. Hold me accountable, okay? Because I do really want to get a library card. And I do want to visit some mini libraries and put some books in and blah, blah. So hold me accountable. If I upload a video and I haven't done that, then let me know. Anyway, I think that covers everything. Again, thanks so much for watching. I really do appreciate you being here. It means the world to me. Every time I get a subscriber, every time I get a comment, it just like makes my day. Like you have no idea. It makes me just cry. Anyway, don't forget to drink some water, take your meds, and I will see you in my next